All right, welcome back, man. It's good to be back. It's your boy Saul G, aka MoneyGram. You can follow me at 50 Shades of Saul G on Twitter. You can follow the entire Libre Network at the Libre Network on IG. And you can follow the entire Libre Network and the majority of the shows on Libre TV on YT as well. Shout out to everybody watching me over there on Facebook. Shout out to everybody watching me on Twitter, Libre TV. We pretty much streaming everywhere right now. So definitely want to start pushing the Libre TV because if you haven't noticed, what's kind of look like it might be coming down the pipeline. Looks like they might kind of be shutting down, not well, to a certain extent, free speech as we know it. So they're definitely cracking down on what you say, what you don't say, what you do say, all the content that you put out there. So also make sure that you're already getting things set up for the transition over there at Libre TV. We've been up now for about we're going in September now, so we've been up now for about 8 months. So shout out to everybody who's already subscribed, got a profile over there ready, because we don't discriminate on what you say over there. You can do as you want. Streaming is another thing. You got to have permission to stream over there. But once you get permission to stream, you can add whatever content you want from YouTube, whatever case may be, all you want. But if you want to stream live over there, you just got to have permission. And all you got to do is shoot any one of the administrators over there email and ask how you can get set up with a live streaming permission. But enough about kind of sort of going through all this stuff, man. If you just finished, man, I just finished about an hour-long show at the Kamikage show. I don't know, man. I'm in a content creating mood tonight. So I decided to bring y'all a little double, actually a triple dose tonight, because if after this show around 9 o'clock, I'll be on with that boy Birdie on Realist Red TV, kind of sort of doing a little background stuff for him, kind of coming in, helping him out, produce his show. So I'll be doing that at 9 o'clock. And you can follow that show at Realist Red TV on YouTube. Follow him on, I think, Realist Red TV on Facebook if you have that. I'm not quite sure where he's going to be streaming to, because, he like to get in his car. And, if you've ever seen the stream, you know what Birdie like to do. So we can't necessarily stream it on all platforms, but it's all good. What else do I want to say? That's pretty much it. Like I said, if you watched the last show, then number one, I started out talking when my mic wasn't working, but it's all good. Second thing is, man, I had a great time this weekend with the Hotep Nation weekend. Great time in Vegas. Me and the miss had a great time, getting on. I ain't been on a roller coaster in about 12 years. So that was a little different of an experience. The 39-year-old versus about the 25-year-old getting on the roller coaster. It was a little different. I mean, I ain't want nobody screaming or nothing like that. But yeah. Well, let me go ahead and get into the topic for tonight, man. And if you look at the name of tonight's topic, it is about intersectionality. And a lot of people might say, well, what is intersectionality? And it's more of a new term, but I'll just give you the basic definition. And intersectionality is the interconnected nature of social characterizations such as race, class, and gender as they apply to a given individual or group, regarded as creating overlapping and independent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. So you got to look at that end part, right? The end part is what you got to do. So like I said, if you're out there watching, man, make sure you're sharing this show with everybody. Make sure you're liking, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe to Libre TV on all major platforms. And let's just get right into it, man. So let's think about that last part. As they apply to a given individual group, regarded as creating overlapping independent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. That's the part that I kind of want to focus on, because that's the part of intersectionality people like to talk about, the discrimination or the disadvantage part, how it creates it, how it establishes it, all these different things, man. Like I said, once again, you are watching Critical Inception. If you don't watch anything on the show, if you watch the intro, you'll be about 2 or 3 times more woke than you were just by watching the intro, because those are the type of things that we're going to talk about on this show. I don't like to say this show is about conspiracy theories. The purpose of the show, as always, is just to make you think a little bit outside the box. You watch, everybody has their news that they get their news from, your certain media outlets, whatever. I'm not really here to challenge what. I'm only here to challenge kind of sort of how. Okay. So that's where I break things down. People want to argue what all day. Is something this or is something that? No, I say, well, how can I look at this in multiple ways? So that way I'm not just, There's a bunch of people running over there, and then I run over there and say, hey, what y'all doing? And there's a bunch of people, oh no, we got to go. It's like we're being pulled from too many directions. And I think that's a big problem that we have right now, especially in American society right now. So I'm going to show you how intersectionality works. The disadvantage part, like I said, on the end part of it, is the part where I'm going to definitely say this is the reason why intersectionality is problematic, because it talks about discrimination or disadvantage. Like, the simple definition of intersectionality is, where do you intersect as a person, right? My sister had a great idea the other day. She said, when you fill out any form, when you do anything, instead of putting your race, instead of putting your gender, whatever the case may be, just put other and put human. So then that way, they can't track us anymore. So then that way, we don't have to worry about any other problems, issues coming up. Dealing with, things like race. Race, there's a lot of things that come up. People say, oh, well, if we all put the same thing, then we won't get service, blah, blah, blah. I hear what you're saying, but the bottom line is you got to think about how you're being serviced at the current point, right? So let's talk about intersectionality, and I'm just going to basically break it down, and I'm going to start with myself first, okay? And I'm going to tell you how intersectionality works. And the reason why I have a problem with it is only because it's not being used to say, okay, I'm a black man, right? And then I could go even further and say, I'm a heterosexual black man, right? Then I could keep going further and say, I'm a heterosexual black man who's married. You understand what I'm saying? So the way intersectionality works is it always puts us at opposite ends of the spectrum. You know what I mean? If you're one thing, then technically you're supposed to be against something else. And I'll show you how this works with this little chart, right? So look at this chart. All these different things on here that we can be separated by, right? Race, education, ethnicity, marital status, location, occupation, religion, class, language, political affiliation, sexual orientation, nationality, age. They even got fertility up here, which is weird. I guess that's a thing. Your appearance, gender. I'm not gonna talk about that, but these are the ways that we can be separated, right? So let's take that for example. Let's start off with something simple as they have. Well, they don't have it up here, but I'm gonna use that first. Gender. If you identify, take that back. See, that's how when they start saying they're pushing so much stuff against you, you start using their terminology subconsciously without you even thinking about it. So let me walk that back. Not if you identify. If you're a man, right, then that means now where is that going to put you opposite of? Sometimes it could put you opposite of woman just by saying, I am a man, okay? So with being a man, what are they saying problematic with being a man? The patriarchy, toxic masculinity, misogyny, right? All these negative terms come out just by being a man, and it's supposed to put you opposite of who? Women. Okay? So then if we think about it from the woman's perspective, what do you have on the woman's side? You have feminism, you have the matriarchy, right? And you have other things that go along with being a woman. I'm not going to discuss it. I'm just showing you how everything is almost designed, no matter how you want to identify yourself, that intersectionality always going to put you most of the times opposite of somebody else. So we start out with gender. So they made it a pretty nice large circle. So let's talk about that. So I'm going to keep expanding this to show you how it always keeps you, the intersectionality part of how you want to identify just as being a human being is always going to put you at odds with somebody else. Sexual orientation. Heterosexual male, right? Okay, now being a heterosexual male, right? Some people will say that puts you opposite of the trans community, opposite the LGBTQ community, right? Just by saying I'm heterosexual. I date people opposite of myself, not the same, opposite. So if you think about that, that's once again how it kind of sort of starts to work. You see, you can't just, it's almost like there's no way that you can really identify yourself unless we have humans and extraterrestrials, but I'm going to get to it in a little bit. But there's really no way to identify yourself that doesn't put you at odds with somebody else. So we pick two characteristics, male and heterosexual, all right? Or sexual orientation and gender. Let's keep going, all right? let's go with religion. That's going to be a good one, right? So for the for the sake of this argument, I mean, not even for the sake of this purpose, I'll keep it simple. Let's just use the term Christian, okay? So if you're Christian, now what? That puts you at odds with who? Atheists. In America, a lot of times it puts you at odds with the Muslim community, right? Or any other people. Sometimes it puts you at odds with the scientific community, which I'm going to get to in a second. But, just think about that. The term that we use, first of all, male, heterosexual, Christian, think about all those things already that we are already supposed to be opposed to. Opposed to women, you're opposed to people of other religions, you're opposed to people of different sexual orientations that you have, okay? Another big one, race, all right? So now black, right? So we got black, heterosexual, male, Christian, all right? And once again, I'm using Christian in the lightest terms. I'm only using it because I want to say the religion that I prescribe to, I don't really like the term that they use because I feel like they're oxymoronic, but it is in a biblical standpoint and it is in a biblical sense. I just don't necessarily consider myself a Christian, but for the sake of this purposes, Christian is the simplest way to keep this simple so I don't have to go on a long journey. We'll have a discussion about my religion and things like that later on, or my spiritual practice and all those type of things. We'll have that as we go on. But for right now, we're just going to use Christian because it's just simple. So now my intersectionality that I've already talked about, race, black, gender, male, sexual orientation, heterosexual, and what was the other one I did? Religion, Christian, right? So those are 4 ways that you can identify that automatically are going to put you at odds with any other person who doesn't necessarily identify you as the same as you. But if you look at it, even within the Christian subsect, there can be Protestants on one side. They have I believe Mormons don't call themselves Christians. So you got Mormons over here. You got your Lutherans, your Baptists, your non-denominational, whoever, right? Even within there, just by basically saying what type of Christian or what type of church you go to, it then puts you not at odds, but you understand what I'm saying? It's another identifier when it should just be about, the church being the body of Christ, all those different things, being a Christian, believing in God, believing in Christ, believing Christ, was the Son of God. If you're a Christian, you should know everything that is your requirements for becoming a Christian. So I'm not going to go deep into that, but it should be simple, right? Everybody in Christianity should believe the same. It shouldn't really be too many different sects, but how many is it? You got AME, Kojic, Church of God. I could go on for days about the different things that fall underneath that Christianity branch. Not to mention, like, you take a left turn to Christianity, you got Catholicism. You take a right turn, you got Judaism. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah. But all those groups, like Catholics, Jews, Christians, people like that, it's not the same thing, right? You understand what I'm saying? But they kind of sort of are underneath the same umbrella. But once again, with that intersectionality, is going to come all these different groups. Okay, so let's go back to our little chart and let's see how much further can intersectionality show how we're at opposite ends of each other. Okay, so we'll just go to nationality right now. Right, so American. So being an American versus being from anywhere else in the world. Now in the diaspora, right, being a Black American versus being Jamaican, Haitian, Ghanaian, Nigerian, African, wherever you're from, right? That has caused problems because, once again, if you're a Black American, now you're at odds with the diaspora, which means, Jamaicans and Haitians and all the Caribbean island people, the African people. Now we're kind of sort of at odds, but we're technically all of the same racial identity, which I'm going to get to in a second. But it's a situation where, once again, within, as being a Black American is different than a white American only because of the aspect that I'm focusing on right now. You understand what I'm saying? But a white American will be different than, hypothetically, somebody from Poland or European or whatever the case may be. You would be at odds, hypothetically. I don't know. I'm not white, so I can't speak on that. But, you could be put at odds with other European groups of people. So that's the way it's supposed to be. Or if you're Black, you could be put at odds with so-called white people. So intersectionality isn't really used to me in a proper way because I want to go back to the definition. The part of it says, as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage, which basically means that how you identify is supposed to somehow create a disadvantage for you. Like some people would say, being in certain communities can systematically put you at a position of disadvantage. So, once again, one of the main aspects I want to focus on is just this intersectionality that we have, and about, to me, its lack of importance, and in my opinion, how we're being controlled to create subsets of society just so we can argue with each other. Like one that's definitely not on here, which I think, is a big one now, would be, it could kind of go on the physical health realm, right? Because the hottest topic of anywhere is always going to be about about this right here. I'm just going to put it on the screen real quick. I think I still got it up. This, right? Whether you took it or whether you haven't taken it, right? The jab. That's basically where we're at right now. And we're getting to the point where intersectionality, all these different things. Remember how I just showed this whole chart of all these different things that right now intersectionality can divide us, right? The biggest one right now, in my opinion, is going to be whether or not you've done this or not. So if you're vaccinated or if you're not vaccinated, that to me is the largest intersectionality of people in America right now. And I think, honestly, it's causing the biggest divide. And I'll explain to you why. Number one, regardless of whether you've taken it, regardless of whether you want to take it, regardless of whether you do take it, okay, it should be the choice left up to every single individual. And I'll explain why. Because if you're saying I should do something for the betterment and the better, I should be doing this to basically help my fellow man out, I'm going to say, okay, well, outside of this, what else do I do to help if all I'm going to do is go get something injected into me, how is that helping my fellow man? You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't do anything else. You go get it, right? You don't, nobody is helping you with anything else. You just go get this one injection, right? How is that helping your fellow man? People say, oh, well, we're in the middle of whatever. Not here to argue that point. My point is, it should still be left up to the choice of the individual to decide what health decisions they're going to make about what goes into their body, because you have to understand that this country, I can only speak for America, we're supposed to be guaranteed, based on the Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The first part of that is life. Now, what I'm not saying is if you do something or your lack of, it's going to take your life or your life could be put at risk. But what I do believe is your life should be in your own hands. I'm not for mandates. I'm not for forcing people to take this, because once again, when we start talking about intersectionality, you have to think about, what are we talking about right now? If you force this on people, okay? You force people who take it, who are saying they literally do not want it, that is going to be problematic. And some people say, oh, well, it's for the health and the betterment of society. And I'm sitting there saying, well, what has society necessarily done for us? And when has society ever been concerned about our health? Okay? So let's take a second and break that down. It feels good, right? Let's say if you are fully, you're fully vaccinated, okay? It feels good to tell people you should take something. You should be like me because you agree with taking it and you've already taken it and you're fully vaccinated. That's perfectly fine, right? But the question is, and this is the one thing that I'm going to point out, right? And I need you to bear with me because I got to bring up the past 4 years. I don't like to do this, but I got to point it out. The former president was compared to a dictator. He was compared to that guy in Nazi Germany. He was compared to being a fascist. Basically, he wants to control, right, and tell you what to do. So my question to you that I would ask anybody in the audience is, could you show me something that was done during the last 4 years that would be the equivalent? of what people are proposing right now. What is something that the former administration put in front of you and said, you have to do this? And we're talking about not as a nation, right? We're talking about an individual choice that you were subjected to strictly because this is what the prior administration wanted to do. In my opinion, I can't think of any, right? You can talk about the racism, not here to argue that. You can talk about the tweets. I'm not here to talk about anything dealing with the former president. I'm just asking a simple question. What was done during the previous administration where you, the individual, were subjected to something that you said, and once again, we're even talking about, like, you know, people were saying, like, if you did you want to have an abortion and you weren't able to have one in the prior administration, something like that, because then to me that would be an example. But I'm just thinking about general examples that affect everyone. I can't think of one. I can think of maybe some decisions that might have affected certain people, like maybe immigrants or certain subsects of society. But we're talking about this doesn't have anything to do with your race, gender, sexual orientation, any of that type of stuff. This is across the board. No matter how you decide to call yourself in the intersectionality game, none of that stuff matters. The only thing that matters is if, you know, you got it or you don't got it. So what I'm saying is, I can't think of anything in the prior administration that would even go towards that. But what I am saying is when you start using that term fascism, when you start using Nazi Germany, doing things against people's will, my question is, what was forced on you that was done against your will to you personally? That was a direct order or initiative directly from the administration. Or we can even drop down to the governors, people in that, because that's what we're starting to see. These mayors are starting to take a little bit more, a lot more weight and stock into what these decisions are being made. So that would be my question. So right now, if you have decided to take the injection, okay, that's perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with it, regardless of my personal thoughts on it. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not here to tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't do. You should make whatever health decisions you need to make for your body the same way I wouldn't try to tell a woman what she should be doing with her body, right? Some people might disagree and say, oh, well, you know, some people have loved using the my body, my choice argument right now, or the pro-life, or however, you know, I've seen so many people try to flip this topic, and I'm just like, look, nothing should be forced on you, period, right? It doesn't matter what it is, because the bottom line is, what you have to think about is this. You could have thought the last 4 years of the previous administration were the worst 4 years of your entire life. Perfectly fine to think that, okay? So now that we got a new administration, and now there has been talk, and when people say forced, it's still not getting to the point where they just lining people up and jabbing in the arm. And honestly, I think people who are, you know, pro-injection, right, I don't believe they would really have a problem with that. If they said tomorrow everybody who does not have the injection has to take it, I believe a large percentage of this country wouldn't have a problem with it. And the reason why I think that's problematic is because it's very easy once you agree with it, but you're not thinking about everything is cyclical. You understand what I'm saying? Everything is going to have its own time. So what happens when that cycle comes back and now you're on the other side? Are you going to start throwing out those same Nazi Germany things again? Because if it's not Nazi Germany when they're forcing people to do this, and you say, oh, well, we're in the middle of whatever we're in the middle of, perfectly fine if that's how you want to believe, right? I'm not here to argue the seriousness of it. I'm not here to argue the lack thereof. I'm not here to argue what happens when you take it, what happens when you don't take it, what's going on in the hospitals. I'm not here to argue any of that. The only thing I'm arguing is nothing should be forced on people, period. It doesn't matter how it goes, because you're going to end up one day on the wrong side of it, and now you're going to feel some type of way, like, let's just say, for example, a Republican wins in 2024. What if they put something out there, right, and they say, oh, well, we want everybody to do something else? Now, all of a sudden, like, you know, because a lot of people have talked about especially a lot of people in the religious circle, some of the different circles, not necessarily religious circles, but let's just talk about getting microchip, right? Let's say, for example, a Republican wins and he says for national security, he wants all Americans to be microchipped. So we can know where you're at all times. We'll be able to monitor things. So that way, you know, we can monitor your vital sign, all these different things that they're being able to come out with this new technology. So a Republican comes in, he said he wants everybody to be microchipped, just like sometimes your dog is microchipped. So we know where you're at all times. Would you say, oh, okay, well, for public safety and for national security, I'm going to go get this microchip put in me? I would say the same people right now who would be talking about Nazi Germany and all these other things, they would turn around, flip and say, oh, why would you want to? It's okay when you agree. It's okay when you're on the side or you're on the pro side, you're for it. But my question is always going to be, when tonight's show is about intersectionality, why is it that we don't want to have some discussions about the injection, right? Why is it that we can't have a panel of doctors, a panel of scientists, whoever, come on the same? We have the pros on one side and we had the against. No conspiracy theorists, no pundits, people who worked with some of these organizations, CDC, some of these people who work in the pharmaceutical industries. Why can't we have a panel of doctors come on the same stage and explain their point of view? Why can't we have a debate? Why can there be no debate on this one subject? It's like we're supposed to trust certain things. We're supposed to believe that these certain things are going to happen the way they're supposed to. But it's like, why is this the only thing that we're not allowed to have a discussion about? Why is this the only remedy, right? Nobody's saying, let's strengthen your immune system. You should probably get out there, exercise, increase your cardio, increase your lung capacity, right? Take some vitamins, take some different herbs and things out there. Drink more water, lower the amount of fat intake that you have. A lot of these different things, lower your sugar intake. A lot of these just simple health tips. It's not even just because of this, right? It's a lot of simple things that we could be doing, period. But none of those things are being recommended. The only thing or the only recommendation that we have nationally is to get an injection, whether it requires 1, 2, 3, possibly some boosters from now, who knows? But the bottom line is, we're not thinking about this from a logical perspective. And I think right now that that's the biggest intersectionality in the country right now. Whether you took the injection or whether you didn't, and we spend too much time arguing about something, to be honest with you, nobody knows. There is not enough information out there for people to say, you can say, oh, well, I know somebody who took it and they're fine. And I can say, okay, well, I know somebody who didn't take it and they're fine. What's your point? Somebody will say, well, those numbers from the intensive care units are saying that, oh, they're full of uninjected people. And I'm going to say, well, once again, it's going to depend on whose information you trust. Somebody can say, oh, I know a doctor who works in the ICU and it's true. Somebody else can say, oh, I know a doctor and that's not true. His ICU is empty. So it's just like right now, too much energy is being put into something that is so divisive that really should be left up to medical experts. And they need to have a sit down. But the bottom line is we can't even have a sit down. Why can't we have pro doctors on one side and against doctors on? We can debate anything else. But there's one thing we cannot debate. You know, we just got FDA approval for one of them, I believe, last week, right? Which means that there's still 3 other ones out there that aren't FDA approved. But then it goes back to the point of, well, what does FDA approval really mean? I said this before. They approve McDonald's chicken nuggets. I don't know how healthy those are. They approve cigarettes. I don't know how healthy those are. They approve opioids, right? We had an opioid crisis the other time. These painkillers, those are also FDA approved, right? So no matter what it is, it's like you're always going to be able to make some sort of argument, whether you agree with it or whether you don't. And I think those two right now are the biggest intersectionality that we have right now. We want to talk about those 2 identifiers to me right now is politically, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, whatever else you want to be, progressive. I think those are the biggest intersectionalities that we have right now. And then, like I said, whether or not you've had the injection or not. But the only thing that I want you to do is take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, look, if you're doing something that you feel is going to benefit your health and you feel that is the best move for you and your family, then please do it. If you feel like you need to make some other decision, perfectly fine to do that, because we're supposed to be given choices. This isn't communist Cuba, where we got a dictator telling us what we should and should not be doing. And nobody should be for that anyway, because we're only talking about something that's only 2 years old. You understand what I'm saying? So your whole mindset shouldn't change when you start talking about things being forced, right? We don't want anything forced on us. So I think it would be a very bad scene if America decided to mandate this and force people, like lining people up and just boom, putting in their arm. You understand what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's a bad look, because I know a lot of people have compared it to Jim Crow, which I disagree with, because we're still talking about choice, not being how you're born. A lot of people have compared it to Nazi Germany, or different other extreme situations that have happened in the history of this world. But I do think it is a bad scene for America if they decide to mandate this and they start basically going around just people who don't want it. Look at some of these things that we've seen coming out of Australia. We've seen people basically being held down and forced to take it. That's not a good look. Because at the end of the day, I should be able to make whatever decisions that I want to make about my life. If when I was growing up, safe sex was a big thing, right? Because AIDS had just popped up. So it was like, yeah, safe sex, use condoms, right? So if I decided to engage in sexual activity and I decided, oh no, I'm not going to use a condom, I don't want anybody running to my bedroom trying to force me to put a condom on if I say, hey, I'll take the risk. Versus saying, oh no, we can't allow you to get somebody pregnant. We can't allow you to get an STD. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if I want to take the risk, allow me to take that risk. People have been playing Russian roulette with their life in plenty of things, right? Like, a lot of people got babies, right? Probably wasn't because a condom broke. Probably wasn't being used. A lot of people out there got STDs. Why is that? Nobody forced them to wear a condom. Nobody forced them to protect themselves. But then people say, oh, well, it's not a health. And I'm saying, well, it is. AIDS is a virus. AIDS has been around for a while. You know what I'm saying? If somebody told you that they had developed a vaccine for that, would you be interested? I don't know. I would look at it the same way. I would just say, well, I'm married now, so no, I don't want it. You know what I mean? At this point, why would I take it? Like, I'm not concerned about it. I'm not, I can't say I'm monogamous, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not concerned about catching nothing from my wife. Like, that'd be stupid, So it's like, at this point, we have reached a point in America where it's like, I hate to say it, but it's like that line is starting to be drawn in the sand. And you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be resistant to these mandates and these things because, in my opinion, it's not right. My opinion has pretty much been the same on the injection the entire time, even when the former administration was in, and he was going around to all the pharmaceutical companies trying to get them to develop a rapid injection with Operation Warp Speed. And, when he had the injection in December, nothing has changed, right? I'm saying, why didn't you go get it in December? As soon as you found out it was available, why didn't you go take it? A lot of people say, oh, well, we didn't have enough information. Well, there still isn't a cure. You do understand that the injection is not a cure. It's not like I have a headache and I go take some BC powder, right? Well, I guess you can't say it cures your headache, but it gets rid of your headache, right? There is no cure. This is a preventative measure, and people keep saying, well, the other talking point out there is, if I take it, at least I won't end up in the ICU. At least I won't die from it. And I'm like, we're seeing right now that that's not necessarily true. Now, there are plenty of people out there who are saying multiple different things about what is and what isn't. So once again, this is the redacted version. So I can't give you that full that I would normally give you on Libre TV, as you've seen with some of my other ones, because I did talk to uh, it was a very, very good interview. So if you're on Libre TV, you can go check that out, where we talked about the injection in full animated color, no code language, no nothing. We talked about it. That was me and Dr. Tanai Ricks, man. It was a great interview. But that's where we're at right now, man. So I feel like right now, when you start talking about this intersectionality thing, a lot of things that I want to use with the last one I've been talking about is it's been proven to disproportionately affect Black people. Okay, so if we're talking about a medical disease, or we're talking about a virus that's disproportionately affecting Black people, then now we've got to start having some other discussions. Well, what genetically about Black people, or what's in our DNA, or what, if we're all human beings, right? That's what a lot of people want to say. Oh, we're all humans. Okay. So if we're all human beings, explain to me why one group of human beings, just because of different amounts of melanin or certain types of melanin that they might have in their skin, why is that group being affected more? Are we not all the same? Are we not all genetically the same? And it's like, if you want to open up those can of worms, I can go there. But it's a situation where you're going to have to explain that, oh, it's because we're economically disadvantaged. That's another thing. But just because you're saying, oh, because of the color of my skin and because I'm Black, or so-called Black in America, it puts me at a disadvantage because it's supposedly killing more of us than everybody else. And I'm like, that's what they say. That's what the media will tell you. But my question is, do you trust the media? There's not a lot of cases in Africa right now. Some people have looked at what New Zealand did and said, I like the New Zealand model. I'm like, you like the New Zealand model? So you want to force people to stay at home, force people not to make no money, and then you might get $1,200. And I'm like, what is $1,200 going to do if they're forcing you not to work? And people say, well, you should have been more responsible. That's not the way it works, because I should have the ability to go to work, take my own risk. That's what I'm saying. At this point, why can't we just say, just take the risk, or not take the risk? Because you're still taking a risk either way you look at it. Because just because you got the injection, you might feel safe, but we've seen people who've taken the injection that still end up in the hospital. So, I just want people to kind of, we gotta stop trying to find all these different ways to separate ourselves and make ourselves seem so different from each other, right? Because whether or not you got the injection or whether or not you do, shouldn't affect how you interact with each other. Shouldn't affect how you look at them. Like, I've seen some pretty horrible stuff on Facebook. Like, yo, I don't care if y'all die. I hope y'all die because you don't want to take it. You know what I mean? Like, that's way too extreme. I hope you die because you made a decision that's different from me. That's insane to me, but this is where we're at. So, once again, man, I want to thank y'all for tuning into my show, Critical Inception. You can follow me at 50 Shades of Soul on Twitter. You can follow the entire Libre Network at the Libre Network on IG. We are back on YouTube, the redacted version, not the full, no uncut, pure 100% version. It's still only going to be on Libre TV. Like I said, we're just trying to grow the channel, grow it, because you got to understand, man, there are a lot of powers out there that are going to really start to restrict what we say, what we do. So definitely, if you haven't already, go over to LibreTV.co, get you an account over there, because, like I said, everything that you talk about, Facebook, Twitter, whatever the case may be, you can have those discussions. Anything you want to stream and anything you want to talk about, you can have those discussions over there. Nobody is looking over your shoulder. We got like 5 rules over there. So if you haven't had a chance to check out LibreTV.co, then please do that. This is it for me tonight on the LibreTV.co platform. The only other thing that I'm supposed to be doing tonight is, once again, I got a show with that boy Birdie on his platform, Real is Rare TV. But outside of that, man, I will see y'all tomorrow. I just did a Kamikage show, so you can go check that out as well. But yeah, I will be back next week. Still waiting on my boy G Phrase to get his situation and everything, so we can crank back up the brown paper bag and the purple pill, because there are some things that we could be talking about. But hey, I'm out here praying for my boy, hoping he get everything worked out. And when he does get things worked out, we'll be back on Mondays and Wednesdays as usual. But tomorrow, I do got a Pollywood coming to you at 7 p.m. I just got to remember which time zone I'm in, because it's kind of thrown off because I'm out here in New Mexico right now. But until next time, man, I enjoyed it, man. See y'all next time.